Welcome to Know the Code, Part 1, Introduction and College Policies. Welcome to SAGE. As a new member of our community, it's important for you to know and understand the college's Student Code of Conduct in order to make sure that your time at SAGE is everything it can and should be. The first step toward knowing the code is to know how to find it. The SAGE College's Student Code of Conduct is available online at sage.edu/conduct and contains more detailed information about the college's policies and procedures that you'll learn about in this presentation. The first part of this presentation on the Student Code of Conduct focuses on the code itself. In this section, you'll learn why the code exists, who it applies to, and where and when the code is in effect. Why the code exists. SAGE believes in the principle of student freedom, coupled with an acceptance of full responsibility for individual action and the consequences of that action. Essentially, the code is an agreement between the students and the college as to what is acceptable behavior. You agree to abide by the policies outlined in the code and to take responsibility if you violate those standards, and in return, the college agrees to grant you the opportunity to respond to any charges against you and assign sanctions that are educational, not punitive in nature. So, who does the code apply to? Every member of the college community, both in residence and those taking online and hybrid courses, is expected to uphold this individual and community responsibility. In short, if you're a student, undergraduate or graduate, resident or commuter, Albany, Troy, or online, this code applies to you. And where does the code apply? Jurisdiction and discipline may be imposed for conduct which occurs on the college's premises or as part of college's sponsored off-premises activity, or for conduct which adversely affects the SAGE College's community and or the pursuit of its objectives. So, if you're a SAGE student, the Code of Conduct not only applies when you are on one of the campuses, it also applies to any time you're engaged in something related to your SAGE experience, including off-campus trips, jobs, and internships. The college can also choose to hold you responsible for off-campus, non-SAGE related actions, depending on their severity. Like many colleges, SAGE has a student amnesty policy. It reads as follows. A student acting in good faith that discloses any incident of domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, or sexual assault to SAGE officials or law enforcement will not be subject to the Code of Conduct action for violations of alcohol and/or drug policies occurring at or near the time of the incident reported. This is good news. It means don't put someone's health or safety in danger out of fear of getting in trouble. If you see something, do the right thing and say something. The second part of this presentation will go into the specifics of SAGE's rules and regulations regarding acceptable behavior. 1. Acts of dishonesty. Acts of dishonesty, including but not limited to the following. A. Cheating, plagiarism, or other forms of academic dishonesty. B. Furnishing false information to any college official, faculty member, or office. C. Forgery, alteration, or misuse of any college-recognized student organization name, emblem, symbols, facilities, or property. D. Tampering with the election of any college-recognized student organization. E. Computer theft, unauthorized use of computers or accounts, or allowing others access to an account. F. Illegal or improper use of the college's phone system. And G. Forgery, alteration, or misuse of any college document. 2. Acts of disruption. Disruption or obstruction of teaching, learning, research, administration, disciplinary proceedings, or other TSC activities, including its public service functions on or off campus, or other authorized non-college activities when the act occurs on the SAGE College's premises. 3. Commitment of a sexual offense. Committing a sexual offense is defined above and in the SAGE College's sexual offense policies and procedures for students and employees, available at sage.edu/Title IX. 4. Verbal abuse. Verbal abuse of any person. 5. Harassment. Harassment, whether verbal, written, or otherwise, including but not limited to sexual and other harassment, is defined in the SAGE College's discrimination and harassment policy and procedure for students and employees, available for you to read in the SAGE catalog. 6. Threatening conduct. Actual or threatened conduct that directly or indirectly threatens, endangers, or interferes with the health or safety of any person, or which adversely affects the Sage College's community and or the pursuit of its objectives. 7. Theft and vandalism. Attempted or actual theft of and or damage to property or services of Sage or any other person or entity. Acts of physical abuse. Actual or threatened physical violence, intimidation, or coercion, and other forms of physical abuse. 9. Hazing. Hazing, defined as any action or situation which recklessly or intentionally endangers the mental or physical health or safety of a person or persons, or involves the forced consumption of liquor, drugs, or other substances, or which destroys or removes public or private property for the purpose of initiation, admission into, affiliation with, or as a condition for continued membership in a group or organization. The express or implied consent of the victim will not be a defense. Apathy or acquiescence in the presence of hazing is also considered misconduct. 10. Failure to comply. Failure to comply with the directions of any Sage College officials, University Heights public safety officers, or law enforcement officers acting in the performance of their duties and or failure to identify oneself to these persons when requested to do so. 11. Unauthorized use of keys. Unauthorized possession, duplication, or use of keys or electronic access cards to any Sage College's premises or unauthorized entry to or use of the Sage College's premises or any other entity. 12. Violation of other Sage College's policies. Violation of TSC policies, rules, or regulations published in hard copy or available electronically on Sage's website, including but not limited to alcohol and drug policies, the tobacco-free policy, selling and soliciting policies, parking regulations, residence hall policies, library regulations, technology acceptable use policy, and student life policies. 13. Violation of federal, state, or local laws. Conduct which could be construed to be a violation of federal, state, or local laws. 13. Illegal drugs. The use of, possession of, manufacture of, or distribution of marijuana, heroin, narcotics, illicit drugs, or other controlled substances except as expressly permitted by law. This also includes prescription drugs being used or possessed by an individual without a valid prescription for that drug. 15. Drug paraphernalia. Use of, possession of, manufacture of, illegal purchase of, or distribution of drug paraphernalia, such as but not limited to pipes, bongs, hookahs, and scales, including but not limited to all items used for the purpose of preparing, ingesting, injecting, inhaling, or otherwise using illegal drugs, or in the illicit use of legal drugs. 15. Alcohol. Use of, possession of, manufacture of, illegal purchase of, or distribution of alcoholic beverages except as expressly permitted by law in the Sage College's regulations. Alcoholic beverages may not in any circumstance be distributed to or by any person under 21 years of age. Being below 21 years of age and in the presence of alcohol within a TSC residence hall is also prohibited. 17. Binge drinking paraphernalia. Items and substances used to dispense and ingest alcohol at a rapid manner, such as but not limited to beer bongs, funnels, Jello shots, etc., are prohibited. Drinking games and contests such as quarters, beer pong, altered board games, etc. are also prohibited, even if alcohol is not present. Paraphernalia related to excessive drinking is prohibited, including but not limited to beer pong tables. And the display of empty alcohol containers is also not permitted. 18. Public intoxication. Conduct which demonstrates public intoxication or signs that indicate the use of alcohol, drugs, or other harmful substances. 19. Possession of a firearm. Possession of any firearm, pistol, revolver, rifle, shotgun, assault weapon, stun gun, explosive, or incendiary device. Possession of a dangerous instrument. Possession of any dangerous instrument, toxic or poisonous substance or chemical, other than for use in a supervised academic setting. 21. Arson. Any attempt to intentionally or recklessly start a fire or cause an explosion and/or contribute to an unauthorized fire. 2. Filing a false report. Falsely reporting an emergency, such as falsely reporting a bomb, fire, or other emergency in any building, structure, or facility on college premises or at any college-related function by activating a fire alarm or by any other means. 3. Participation in a disruptive demonstration. Participation in a campus demonstration which disrupts the normal operations of the Sage Colleges and infringes on the rights of other members of the college community, leading or inciting others to disrupt scheduled and/or normal activities within any campus building or area, intentional obstruction which unreasonably interferes with the freedom of movement, either pedestrian or vehicular, on campus. 4. Obstruction of traffic. Obstruction of the free flow of pedestrian or vehicular traffic on Sage College's premises or at college-sponsored or supervised functions. 25. Disorderly conduct. Conduct which is disorderly, lewd, indecent, or a breach of the peace, i.e. conduct which is disruptive, disturbing, or offensive to others, or aiding, assisting, or encouraging another person to breach the peace on Sage premises or at functions sponsored by or participated in by the Sage Colleges or members of the academic community. 6. Uncivil conduct. Engaging in conduct which has the intent to demean, annoy, or alarm another person, including but not limited to initiating communication via mechanical or electronic means, social network communication, telephone, telegraph, mail, computer, electronic mail, or other form of written or pictorial communication, texting, or by making a telephone call or calls, whether or not a conversation ensues with no purpose of legitimate conversation. 27. Unauthorized surveillance. Unauthorized surveillance, including but not limited to any unauthorized use of electronic or other devices to make an audio or video record of any person while on the Sage College's premises with or without prior knowledge or without his or her effective consent when such a recording is likely to cause injury or distress. This includes but is not limited to surreptitiously taking pictures of another person in a gym, locker room, or restroom, or any other place where there is a reasonable expectation of privacy. 28. Abuse of the Sage College's network. Theft or other abuse of computer or telephone systems or time, including but not limited to a. Unauthorized file access to use, read, or change the contents or for any other purpose. B. Unauthorized transfer of a file. C. Unauthorized use of another individual's identification and password, or allowing another person to use and/or access one's MySage or voicemail account identification or password. D. Use of computing or telephone facilities to interfere with the work of another student, faculty member, or Sage College official. E. Use of computing or telephone facilities to send obscene, threatening, harassing, or abusive messages. F. Use of computing or telephone facilities to interfere with the normal operation of the Sage College's computing system. G. Use of computer or telephone facilities in any way that which could be construed to be a violation of federal, state, or local laws. H. The use of the computer or telephone facilities that in any way could be construed as copyright infringement. I. Any violation of the Sage College's acceptable use policy. 29. Abuse of the student conduct system. Abuse of the student conduct system, including but not limited to a. Failure to appear before a student conduct board or appellate board or college official if requested, or willful failure or refusal to cooperate as a witness, unless doing so would incriminate oneself. However, this provision does not apply to reporting individuals who choose not to participate in the student conduct proceedings regarding sexual offenses as they report to TSC. B. Falsification, distortion, or misrepresentation of information before a student conduct or appellate board. C. Disruption or interference with the orderly conduct of a student conduct code proceeding. D. Initiation of a student conduct code proceeding without knowingly having cause. E. Attempting to coerce an individual from proper participation in or use of the student conduct system. F. attempting to influence the impartiality of a member of a student conduct board or appellate board prior to and/or during the course of a student conduct code proceeding. G. Harassment, verbal or physical, and/or intimidation of a member of a student conduct board or appellate board prior to, during, and/or after a student conduct code hearing. H. Failure to comply with the sanctions imposed under the Student Code of Conduct. I. Influencing or attempting to influence another person to commit an abuse of the student conduct system. And J. Institution of a student conduct code proceeding in bad faith. 3. Gambling. All gambling or betting activities, with the exception of small private card or other games, which do not involve monetary bets or involve monetary bets of very small amounts. 1. Irresponsible social conduct. Failing to engage in responsible social conduct that reflects credit upon the Sage College's community and to model good citizenship in any community. 32. Acts of complicity. Acts of complicity, aiding, abetting, attempting, conspiring, hiring, willfully encouraging, or being an accessory to any violation of the Sage College's Code of Conduct. 3. Smoking. Smoking, the use of any tobacco product, and the use of e-cigarette and other electronic smoking or vaping methods are strictly prohibited. The Sage Colleges are dedicated to providing a healthy, comfortable, and productive living and work environment for our faculty, staff, administrators, and students, and a healthy, comfortable, and safe environment for our visitors. The tobacco-free policy prohibits the use of any and all tobacco products on Sage's institute, facilities, or property. For the purpose of this policy, tobacco is defined as any type of tobacco product, including but not limited to cigarettes, both commercial, handmade, or electronic, cigars, cigarillos, pipes, hookahs, oral tobacco, spit and spitless, smokeless, chew, snuff, or any other smoking material or device. 4. Retaliation. Threats or other forms of intimidation or retribution against a student who files a complaint or grievance, reports a conduct violation, requests an administrative remedy, participates in an investigation, appears as a witness at an administrative conduct hearing, or opposes an unlawful act, discriminatory practice, or policy are prohibited and subject to college disciplinary procedures. Finally, 35. Tampering with fire equipment. Fire extinguishers, alarm systems and conduits, detectors, sprinkler heads, strobes, devices, and exit signs shall not be tampered with or tested by unauthorized persons, nor should anything cover, be attached to, or hung from any piece of fire safety equipment. Students tampering with fire safety equipment are financially responsible for any charges assessed as a result of the tampering. This concludes Part 1 of the Student Code of Conduct Review. Please proceed to the quiz located on the Sage College's Student Conduct Moodle page. All students are required to score at least a 90% to pass the course, but you may retake the quiz as many times as you need. Once you've completed and passed the quiz, please go on to Part 2.